Hello everyone, welcome back to Bascar Bricks and welcome back to the second episode of Bricks, Builds, and Beyond. Today, I'm going to be teaching about the history of LEGO Star Wars TIE Fighters. Today with me is Xanderland Studios.
Hey, how are you guys?
Alright, so let's get right into it. Now, the very first major era of LEGO Star Wars TIE Fighters is at the very beginning. We're starting at 1999 and moving to 2007, just before the 2010s, and we have primarily blue TIE Fighters. Now, you might be asking, why the heck are TIE Fighters a primarily gray StarCraft blue? Well, it actually comes in the fact if you look at the original props for the original 3 Star Wars movies, the actual film props were a bit more bluish gray than actual gray. So this was LEGO's attempt to try to replicate those original models from the film, but of course LEGO did not have the colors, the correct color palette to replicate those models easily, so we have this weird hybrid here. But as you can see, we have a lot of really different TIE Fighters here. Xanderland, why don't you go ahead and tell us about some of them?
Well, it looks like there's one set with Vader's tie. We got a Y-wing as well. That's a little strange. I guess it makes sense in the scene. Most of these seem to be based off of A New Hope. We've got a TIE Interceptor from Return of the Jedi. There's a TIE Bomber, which made its only appearance in Empire. And
Yeah.
then the TIE Crawler, that's a strange one. That one's not even from the movies. That one's from the expanded universe, which is beyond the movies, if you could say. And then he's got a couple regular ties just chilling out there. The blue color is interesting. Yeah, this is the time where they didn't have the right colors to make a standard tie look good. It's a good design, but it's a little blocky at this time. They'll get better. They get way better.
They do get better. Yeah, I found it so interesting that despite these being so early in the LEGO Star Wars history, they really went out of their way to make a lot of different types. They did not pull any punches with these at all.
Right.
Especially as we get to the next page here is continuing the blue era, we get some really interesting ones here.
Could say that.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, first of all, the TIE Fighter collection, which on its own seems relatively normal. It's just a TIE Advanced, 2 normal TIE Fighters. But in the very back there, you may notice this weird thing in the background, which is another expanded universe TIE Fighter. This is a droid operated, more like a vulture droid than a TIE Fighter.
I think that's really cool, to be honest.
Right.
Looks really dope.
I really want them to remake that. It's just such a shame.
I would buy it. If they remade it, I would buy it.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have the UCS TIE Interceptor, one of the very first UCS sets. Despite the box art, it is also blue. But we have Vader's TIE Interceptor here, Vader's TIE Fighter, the UCS one. This is the very first LEGO Star Wars TIE Fighter in a larger scale that is accurately colored. And it's present in the blue era.
I think the front of it looks a little bit weird, just like the shaping.
I've always wondered why, because I believe that I think the TIE Crawler was released after that, so they even went back to the blue color scheme after they made that one. Which I always found kind of weird, like, you did it right for the first time, then it's like, nope, we're doubling down on this other thing.
Right. I think that's interesting. I like that they did some weirder stuff, like the droid one and the crawler.
Yeah, it makes this era feel, it has like a more classic sci-fi feel to it, like a more traditional sci-fi.
Right. And the TIE Fighter, it's not even that, like, complex of a design. It's just a ball with 2 wings.
Yeah, and especially with these old blocky designs, there's just a certain something of these older ones.
Right. They look good. They're just not movie accurate.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'd summarize the entire blue era. Next year, though, we have the beginning of the modern era. Now, this was an odd era for TIE Fighters. This was kind of a transition between the older models and the newer ones. As we'll see here, a lot of these models still use the old Technic pin mechanism to hold in all of the wings, but we have some outliers here. So, what do you think of some of these?
These are interesting. I think this is the point where they started to do the gray and black colors, right?
Yeah, the more movie accurate ones.
Right. You know, funny story. I almost got the 2012 TIE Fighter. I was very close. My dad almost picked it up for me, but he decided to get a SpongeBob set instead, which, okay, we'll just move on from that. But
Right? Yeah, yeah, it's not terrible. SpongeBob's kind of cool, but what I especially think is interesting in this selection is the Vader's TIE Fighter, because that is an exact in-between point. This uses very similar techniques and very similar building strategies to make a TIE Fighter that the older ones used, but with newer colors. It is like literally an in-between model. And as well,
right. Wasn't this Vader's tie? Wasn't that like a 10th anniversary set or something?
it was. It was, I think, for the 10th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars. And you also see, we also have a mix of cockpit pieces here. You see the TIE Defender and Vader's TIE use the old cockpit piece, but the standard TIE Fighter uses this newer and a lot bulging one.
I like that. You know, personally, I really like the 2012 model, and I think it's actually really underrated.
Hmm. I love those wings on it, especially. The wing, they really did great things with the wings on that one.
Right. I like the way that the cockpit opens. It's like this big hinge.
Yeah. It's very convenient. Yeah, well. This was the beginning of the modern era, 2008 to 2012, where we start to see them form. Now we're getting into what we see TIE Fighters as today, which is the modern era, of course. Now, what makes the modern era really unique is as the modern era came along, so did a lot of new Star Wars content, specifically being Rogue One and the prequel trilogy. So we get an even more unique span of TIE Fighters.
Right. Yeah, you've got Kylo Ren's. You've got the TIE Striker. That's only from Rogue One. You've got Vader's new advance. So that's from Rebels.
Yeah, I forgot to mention also Rebel stuff. This was literally an explosion of different kinds of TIE fighters, and we also have the new Junior's 4 Plus TIE fighter here. All of a sudden, LEGO just went out of the way and just kind of really just started giving us all sorts. But also, we see the introduction of the modern cockpit piece, which most of these use. Just right, it's on the front of almost all of them, and you see LEGO still uses that to this day.
I think the coolest ones of these is the TIE Striker and the TIE Defender from the previous era. That was awesome. I think Kylo Ren's probably stands out the most just because it's the most evil looking.
It's also the least TIE fighter-ish.
Right, it doesn't have the regular cockpit. It has like this flatter one.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back a slide here just so we get an idea of really the jump in detail that we saw. Once again, this is 2015 to present, so we do have a 3-year gap between these sets being to 2012 and then to 2015, but just taking a look at these and then these, to me, the detail increase here is just phenomenal. They really upped their game on a lot of these.
Right. I do think the worst thing about these TIE Fighter sets, though, are the prices, though.
Yeah.
And the increase in detail makes the increase in price.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, once again, yeah, just look at this First Order TIE Fighter, compare it to, some of these. I mean, the piece count is rather up there. Now, of course, now we're into today, nowadays here. And once again, we see the introduction, of another new Star Wars media, which was the Resistance TV show, which not a lot of people really talk about here, but we get two really unique TIE fighters, which is this red First Order TIE Interceptor and this modified, racer TIE fighter that's up here at the top.
Right. I never watched the show, but I think these are really rad for what they're going for.
Yeah. I watched the show. I don't really remember much from it, but I remember that red TIE fighter was a big standout from that show.
I'm sure. I like the TIE Dagger the most of these. I think it's kind of a meme from Rise of Skywalker. It's like the TIE Dorito, as people call it.
Yeah, I mean we got the TIE Bomber, and we have of course the two newest variations of the standard TIE Fighter, being the Rogue One TIE Fighter, and of course the newer, smaller one, and of course the UCS TIE Fighter. So
they're all great. I actually have the 2018. I want to pick up some other ones at some point, but that's the one I have of these.
yeah, I mean, it's truly nuts to see, because TIE Fighters have been, as we've seen, a prominent part of LEGO Star Wars history, just by far. And if we look at just really the beginning here, all the way to the end, it's it's like a whole nother company almost.
True, yeah. They spend a lot more. Clearly, they had new designers, new, like, just people working on them, new skills, new pieces. Clearly, more was done with these.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts to see, but that kind of is kind of it as far as the history of TIE fighters go. So, do we have any closing thoughts?
I like all of these. I particularly like the Defender, the Crawler, the two from Resistance, and the Dagger. And I think Kylo Ren's is really cool as well. Like those are just very different, I think, which is cool because
I,
Lego made some of their own ones, which I think is cool. I would
yeah,
just, I just wish that we got more. I wish we would get more TIE Fighter sets because it seems that they're kind of lacking these days.
yeah, recently, yeah, they kind of have. There's so much potential for so many unique and wacky TIE fighters that we've seen just from this small batch of TIE fighters. There's been some really wild ones, like you said, like the TIE Crawler, that racer one. There's always been these nutty ones in there, and I feel like there's a lot of potential to really dig into that.
Right. If they only made one of these, I think it would be good to get maybe an updated interceptor at some point or a TIE defender. I really like that defender. I think that's probably my favorite of all of these. That's not a standard one. I just really like it. I hope they bring it back.
Yeah, well, Xanderland, I appreciate you coming on here and helping me to teach everyone here about the history of Lego Star Wars TIE Fighters.
Problem. I love this craft. I love this hobby. Glad to be of assistance.
Yeah, so of course Xanderland's channel will be in the channel description. Of course, if anyone enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to both of our channels, contact us on Discord, my Discord server, all that jazz. And I hope to see y'all in my next video. See ya.
See you guys.